How you doing? How you doing? And how you doing, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Patty, and I appreciate you stopping by today. And real quick, before we get into what is going to be the meat and potatoes of today's video, big Genshin YouTuber stopping content on the game, we're going to start off with something a little bit, guess lighter. But if you have been a fan of Dragon Raja and you followed us towards the end of that stint and everything, that's when it was originally announced that Archosaur Games was coming out with another game that was slated for sometime this year called Noah's Heart, or Heart of Noah as it's apparently showing in the TapTap store. But the kind of cool thing about this is right now they just recently, I want to say in the last 2 weeks or so, opened up pre-registration for beta testing for it. I'll put the link in the description down below. You guys are definitely recommended to go hit that if you played a lot of Dragon Raja. That being said, I still have a lot of criticisms and concerns for this game based on all of my time in the Dragon Raja universe. So I'm really excited to see what they do. But there's a lot of things hanging over my head of, oh God, do they do this? Do they do this? Do they do this? Do they make these same mistakes? So we're gonna keep an eye on it, and we gon' see. But all right, let's go ahead and actually talk about the main thing for today's video. So some of you may or may not be familiar with our boy Demone Kim. So I've actually followed this man pretty loosely since he was Demotivational Gamer way back in the day when he was covering Summoners Wars. Jesus, I don't even remember how many years ago that was at this point. Like 3, 4? Like, homie been around for a while, and love him or hate him, he's always had a consistent style. Like, he is a very upfront person, very blunt with what he believes. And he's not a fan of sugarcoating things. He's also not very sensationalism or anything along those lines. He's pretty much going to tell you exactly what he's thinking and feeling. Now that is something that is subject to change over time. So to start us off real quick, I'm just going to kind of recap roughly what this man is talking about and what happens in the video so you guys have an understanding of it. I do highly recommend you all actually go and watch this man's video for yourselves. It is definitely a little bit on the long side, but I personally always feel better when I get the actual context and watch it come from the person as reports to, reporting like this. But we're going to recap his stuff real quick and what he says and what some of his main points are. And then we're going to get into some of our own thoughts and feelings because I personally can relate to a lot of this. A lot of the criticisms that he shares are things that I've been harping on since like November. So like what, 1.1, 1.2, somewhere around there. So starts off with saying that he's uninstalled Genshin completely. It's off his computer. He's not going to play it again. He is done, finito. He's not done for right now, not done until 2.0 comes out. He is saying that he doesn't care what they add in the game. He is done, period. Right? Also goes on to say that he's going to be focusing his channel on MMO content. He's actually in a couple of, I want to say a closed alpha right now, and has been involved with a couple other games recently in their betas. And he talks about a lot of the things that he has currently in the works and upcoming. Then he starts to get into a little bit of his frustrations where he talks about like the kind of carrot on a stick gameplay where everything either costs time or it costs money. And then that is not something he ultimately wants to keep playing. He also goes on to talk about the difficulty of walking away from the success of this game and that it's had for him and his channel. And that ultimately it's not worth him, even though he had that success, to keep doing something that is not he's not enjoying, that's not making him happy. And not only does he have these growing frustrations, but he goes on to say that he can't support Genshin and MiHoYo for what they are and what they're currently standing for. This is one of the points that I can relate very heavily with when he was a beta tester, because I too was a closed beta tester. I think I came in on wave 3 and he came in on wave 2, so the man's got more time in it than me. But one of the things that he and I both really loved was the potential that the game had, because betas are notably bare, was very hard to get an idea of what the end game was going to look like, if the end game was going to exist. It was very easy to fall in love with the foundation of the game and then have really high aspirations for what they can eventually do for it, and, you know, just the hope for the future. That is something that I think all of us early days people really had. And this is something that when he said in his video really resonated with me, because I thought this game was so special the moment that I touched it, and was so excited to see what they were going to do with it, especially given their history with Honkai Impact and taking a game from a very poor place and turning it into such a great game and just a celebrated game. So all of those things leading in, it was like, you know, these guys might be it. They might make one of the best games of all time. And that's how a lot of us felt in those early days. So that resonated with me very strong. Another thing that he kind of harps on is that it eventually gets to the point where it feels like, okay, characters are $1,500, weapons are $3,000. And that's just about the only thing added to the game besides an occasional boost in Spiral Abyss to kind of help sell their power creeped characters. I can't say I disagree with that point too much. And kind of piggybacking off of what we were talking about just a second ago with the anticipation and the hopes that a lot of us beta testers had for the game when we played it, was where it was going to go and what it was going to have in it. And ultimately, the feeling of it being a rather empty game without the occasional, you know, few quests being thrown in with an event, but those quests not really being attached to anything, 9 times 10, not even mattering. Even when we had this big quest lines, like, oh my god, meteors are falling out of the sky. Is this connected to Dragonspine? Cricket. Not really. They didn't thread those two things together. There's very... I can again see that point. Another frustration that he brings up is all of the time-gated content, and uses other examples of free-to-play people having to save their primos for like 6 months to even have a good shot at getting a character they want. That stuff is kind of insanity. The man's is not wrong there. A lot of the rest of the video is him going on and talking about some of his future projects, some games that he's been playing. He definitely has to use several different analogies, and rephrasing his frustrations in a couple of different ways. Because again, this was a live stream, that he did this intentionally as a live stream so that he could have a back and forth with the people and kind of explain himself. So definitely commend the man on that. But there's definitely a decent amount of this video is not necessarily him answering the same question, but all of them are on the same road to the same path, you know what I mean? And one of the things that he kind of puts his foot down and says is that ultimately he is done with all gotchas. He does not want to play any game with a gotcha element, with a loot box element, anything that is going to get in the way and ruin the game's sense of progression. And he goes on and talks about a lot of why he loves video games in the first place, and when, you know, when he was younger playing games and, you know, running into the different, you know, okay, I've got to beat this boss, get real strong, go beat that boss, think you're a little bit of a badass, get to the next place and realize you ain't nothing. And that's true. I can completely understand with that, and you'll see some examples from me later on in this video of where I really love the progression in games. I really love systems in games. All of that is like the most important thing to me, and how I view games. And ironically enough, that is what's the most broken thing about Genshin. So I can see how for people that play like us, that look at gaming in the way that we do, it's very easy to get burnt out in the style that Genshin currently is. And I think it drastically needs to improve for the people that are going to continue playing the game. But I definitely understand and resonate with the issues with the systems being the most frustrating part about the game. If it had amazing endgame content and just some crappy progression systems, that'd be one thing, but it don't got no Let me stop. But again, this is me trying to quickly kind of go over the things for the videos, and we'll get into these points a little bit more. But I wanted to do a quick recap of what he essentially says and goes over, and then we'll start digging through some of my takes and opinions on some of this stuff, and where I personally stand, because a lot of this resonated with your boy pretty strong. Pretty strong. There's a long-standing meme in the gacha community where they like to refer to themselves as degenerates. Now, it's kind of a joking off of, you know, the gambling side of it. Maybe it's a little bit self-awareness that spending thousands of dollars on mobile games is a psychotic idea at best. Who knows? Who knows? Y'all do what you want with your money. It's just gonna make me cry inside. But I know that's heavily based on my own background and my own experience with poverty. So it's an insane thought to me, but I can understand that those that haven't lived as close to the edge might not see it that way. So this man has a storied history, in my opinion. I've not always agreed with everything that he's ever said in any of his videos. But I've always had a lot of respect for the guy, just based off of his grind. He's been doing content for years and years. And while Genshin was very successful for him, being able to see who he was back in the day versus who he is as now, there's not a lot of core change. Like, the man is still the man's. He did not get swept up in how much Genshin blew up for him. And honestly, it was kind of the thing that eventually killed his love for gacha games altogether. And now the man says he is completely done with it. A lot of the sentiments that he goes over in his video are things that we started harping on in the game around November, really. Because that's honestly when I stopped playing Genshin daily. It was all the way back in November. And a lot of the role that I've personally tried to fill in still covering and talking about the game is very much in the alley of giving my 2 cents to try and help protect you guys. I've definitely caught a decent amount of flack for trying to hold the game accountable in a lot of ways. Usually things where the video is me saying like, hey, here's an issue in Genshin, and here's what I think that we can do to fix this situation. Usually the videos that have the most downvotes or have the most ugly comments that I have to get rid of. It's not been good for the channel for me to be critical of the game, because Genshin has a lot of stands. And I can understand why. Like, I was in the closed beta test 2 or 3, and it was... honestly, I felt better about Genshin than I have almost any other game I have ever played in my life. Like, the second I got into that beta and started playing it, I knew it was going to be something special. I didn't think in a million years that it was going to blow up in the way that it did, or the fact that they would make $6 billion in a month. In those first few weeks of the game, there was so much potential. And it wasn't necessarily what we were able to do out of the gate. It was the foundation of the game and what we could see them possibly achieving with it over a period of time. There was so much potential to Genshin Impact. There really was. It stood to be, as Demone says in his video, like one of the most impactful games of gaming history. And I don't think that that's just a throwaway thing to say. Like, I think that is actual facts. If you follow the numbers and its initial boom and the fact that it's made $1 billion in 6 months, this is already one of the most successful games of all time, not only of the last couple of years. Like, they did pull off something amazing here, and I think it got wasted. So I can personally relate to a lot of what Demone says, especially in where he focuses in on his frustrations with the game and how they grew over time. there are a lot of systems that could very easily have been improved upon to make life in this game much, much better. But instead of really impactful quality of life, MiHoYo has absolutely felt the need to keep the hard time gate in on everything. On everything. And I think this is not only what killed the game for Demone, it's what's killed the game for many, 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 many people before him, including me. By November, I was so fed up with that system and the difficulty that I had to just try to build characters to be able to do videos on them. Doing that without spending money is virtually impossible because it can take up to a month to build a character. That's absolutely insane. It would be one thing if it was just a difficulty rating that kept it from you being able to do those things in that amount of time, but it's not a difficulty curve, it's a time gate. That is the core of a bad game. And honestly, at this point, I'm gonna have to agree with my man. At least in the way that Genshin time gates things to an extreme degree, to the point to where building characters can take well over a month, especially if you're actually working on talents and everything like that. But even then, just strictly taking them from level 1 to level 90, if you don't already have a bunch of stuff saved up, will take at least 3 weeks, which is... Again, if that was because of a difficulty of building them, that would be fine. It's not. It's a time gate because there's no end game content. There's a very real lack of any content at all. That's why the time gate has to exist. And I honestly agree. So many of the critiques that we had early on in the game about improving certain systems in the game, like the fact that killing monsters in the world means absolutely nothing. You get no experience from that almost at all. Everything comes from tomes. If killing monsters in your game can't even count for anything because it would speed things up too much, you've got a problem, okay? It's not a great sign. Kind of one of those red flag things. That's a problem. That's 100% a problem. So a lot of what I've tried to do in my time with Genshin, since I personally got to this point in the game, was to try and hold them accountable, point out issues. I've done my best to not outright attack the game because I don't feel like that's a productive thing. If I have an issue with something but I don't have a solution for it, then I think I'm utterly failing to understand the situation. Because you can complain about something all day long, but if you can't see a way to fix it, then you have no better understanding of it than the person that caused the issue in the first place. You know what I mean? You're not part of the solution there. It's an issue. You know what I mean? So I've always been a big proponent of, if you see an issue, have a solution for that issue, or you're kind of just bitching. You know what I mean? And honestly, this man just said a lot of the stuff that we've been saying for a while now. And I can respect his position of saying, okay, this is how I feel now, so it would feel morally wrong of me to continue playing a game or making content for a game that I do not love and I do not enjoy. And I can respect that. So, I mean, I can respect that. And personally, a lot of what I have tried to do and how I've rationalized it to myself, that we've continued making content on a game that we have more issues with than we enjoy at this point, and that we don't even honestly play anymore. Like, I'll boot it up every once in a while to see some of the new updated stuff, play around with a few things, but it would be insane to even call me a casual player at this point. And a lot of that comes, and a lot of me just trying to still cover the game comes from me wanting to do everything that I can to protect you guys, to give you insights that I think will be valuable to you, to either protect you as a player and your decision-making skills, or in how the game is making decisions and how that should be called out in the community. I like doing that. I like feeling like I am potentially still able to help somebody. I personally have started to branch out and focus more on other newer mobile games and everything. But a lot of what Demone talks about in his video can be kind of used across the board for the entire mobile platform, where the monetary end of it is essentially ruining it. And I hold out hope that one day mobile games will be as great as they can be, because I believe there is no easier way to have a larger gaming community than on mobile. Like, the bar of accessibility is so much lower with mobile than it is with console gaming, than it is with PC gaming. You got VR gaming all the way at the top. Well, you got $1,000? Not for that. Anyway. The bar for gaming on mobile is so low that it has the opportunity to bring in more people into the gaming world. And I believe there's going to be a day eventually where that's going to be a healthier thing, and it's not going to be as a monetized cash grab as we see mobile gaming. So I don't want to completely abandon mobile gaming on YouTube. I want to still cover mobile gaming stuff. Obviously, we eventually want to do more than that in the very long run. So for me, it's really, really easy to see where Demone is coming on, especially when he talks about recently he's been playing a lot of other games with a much greater sense of progression, to where you're not constantly running into a bunch of time-gated stuff, and how rewarding that has been for him. And I can agree. For those of you that might have a hard time seeing it, we have a total of 609.9 hours on Rust. You might be like, Patty, that's crazy, man. How many years you been playing that game? This game I purchased on February 4th of 2021. I have owned this game for about 3 months. So we've played 609 hours of this game in 3 months. If you want to know what game Patty's been playing and what has been hitting that gamer itch of a game that feels rewarding and where there is a constant sense of progression, it's been Rust for me. It's been other games from Demone, but this has been my baby. This is where my heart and soul has been the last couple of months. And I don't think that I can successfully pull off just doing Rust content on the channel. And I don't want to just do Rust content or just do any single one game on my channel. I want to be able to talk about a variety of games. Now, that's not something the YouTube platform supports very well. When somebody subscribes for a game that they see my channel covering, typically they will only be alerted to new videos about that game specifically. A lot of my Dragon Raja people that subscribed back in the day don't get notifications for almost any of my new videos, and a lot of them occasionally pop up and they're like, oh my god, I thought you were dead. I had no idea you were still doing content. Like, yeah, YouTube just decided you subscribed for that game and that game only. So it's going to be a challenge. It's been a challenge for the past couple of months of trying to cover a lot of different games, talk about a lot of different things, and I feel an obligation in mobile gaming to try and do that, because there's a lot within this community that is great, and there's a lot within this community that should be held accountable. There should be... You can love a game and you can criticize it at the same time. I know that's very hard for some Genshin stans to understand, but just because there's heavy criticisms for the game doesn't mean that there's no love for it. I've got a lot of love for Genshin. I honestly am at this point disappointed. I wish they had taken the lessons that they took years to learn with Honkai Impact and made that part of their strategy with Genshin Impact. Instead, it seems like they're just going to make those same mistakes and eventually fix all that stuff years down the road. But it's... You can love a game and still have criticisms for it. And I like doing that. I like filling that role. I'm very well versed in being able to look at something from many different angles, and not just be a middle of the road person, but I think that there is You will never ever fully understand a situation, period. You could have 1,000 years to study a 1 month period, and you're not going to ever completely understand everything that happens in that. No amount of time will give you the ability to understand something from all angles. Ironically enough, any of you familiar with Buddhism, and the reason that Buddhist monks take vows of silence, it's because nothing you ever say in life will be truly understood. Even down to such a fundamental thing that if I say the color blue, I think of a different color blue, you think of a different color blue. It could just be off by the most minute little bit. You could just be a little bit closer to, baby blue, and I'm a little bit closer to navy blue. Whatever, when I say blue, whatever color immediately pops into both of our mind is going to be different. And so fundamentally, nothing you ever say is going to be fully understood with the complete context of how you were saying it, how you were feeling, how you were thinking while you're saying it. You're never going to be fully understood ever once in your life. And that's why Buddhist monks take vows of silence, or at least why some of them do. And that philosophy should carry very well into people's trying to understand complex situations. I think we would all be much, much better off instead of taking either hardline stands that all gotcha stuff is good or all gotcha stuff is bad, or this person is just a shill and this person is my hero. There's so much, so very much to try and understand in the world. And I constantly try to do that and try to better my understanding of things. And I always want to bring that to gaming in a way that is going to help people. And maybe one day I'll be able to bring that to people in a way to help more than just outside the gaming community. But I feel there is a role that I can fill in a way that I can help protect people or help inform people so that they're able to make better decisions. And that's why we try to do what we do. So are we still going to make some Genshin stuff, even though we pretty much entirely agree with Demone Kim? Yeah, we'll still cover it occasionally, just like we have been and everything. And we're also going to cover new games and stuff as well. If you want to help support me in trying to cover a bunch of different games, and you understand that YouTube is going to punish me for going between a bunch of different games in the stupid way they like to send notifications, I'm going to reorganize my channel here pretty soon and put all of my first look videos and everything in their own playlist and try and start organizing things a little bit better. But go in some of those videos. Leave some comments under several different games that I've covered, and that might trick the YouTube algorithm into thinking that subscribers might actually want to see videos from the person they subscribe to. I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. And real quick, also, anybody that hard disagrees with Demone Kim or is hard disagreed with me in the past and the criticisms I've had about the game, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you enjoy it for as long as you can. None of our criticisms should be taken as personal attacks to you or to how you view the game. So if you feel attacked when this stuff is brought up, know that it's not personally against you. And that's a defense mechanism that's triggering, and you should look into why that's happening and see if they can sometimes be an overcompensation because you know that there is an issue somewhere that you're potentially ignoring, but we're not going to get all into that. But it's not healthy to take things like that as a personal attack and start attacking other people. And I see a fair amount of that. So just don't, you know what I mean? It's cringe a little bit, bud. Like no one's coming for your throat, and the people that react to this stuff in such an aggressive way is at the very least not healthy for you, and that's my bigger concern. I don't care if you get mad at me, if you get mad at Demone, it's not going to hurt my feelings. I'm just worried about your health. You're bringing your blood pressure up for no reason, boo. You're killing yourself a little bit. Stress will kill us long before anything else will if we let it. So I'm just saying, relax a little bit. Don't let it get you. Ain't nobody coming for you. And maybe try to figure out why you're reacting that way, because it's a little rough. Bud. Alright guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you stopping by today. I think we're going to go ahead and call this one there. But I wanted to make a video talking about this just because I've watched Demone for a while. I can very easily relate to his experience with my 600 hours over there, and finding other things more satisfying. So again, thank you so much for stopping by today. I really appreciate them faces. Gonna catch your boy in the next one, cause we're out of here. Deuces.